Well, here it is, classic movie gush number 14. I can't believe we made it this far without talking about the movie, What's Up, Doc? And I think this might just be the very favoritist of one Melissa Tagg.
It's the best movie ever since like the first movie was made in like 1888 or whatever it was.
The best movie ever. You know, for years I have been putting together in my mind and sometimes online lists of my favorite movies. And I'm surprised that I don't just automatically throw What's Up, Doc in the top 10. I mean, I've loved this movie since I was a teenager, but I got away from it for a few years. And, boy, watching it once again just reminded how incredible this is. I think now I'm just going to continue on a steady upward trajectory of how awesome What's Up, Doc is.
That's good. That's
So
a good way
good.
to spend your life.
Now we have to start off by saying this. This is classic movie gush, in which we cover the golden age of Hollywood or classic movies. So it starts with the golden age of Hollywood. But we determined that our cutoff year would be 1972, and we did that for two reasons. One, because there was no way we weren't going to talk about What's Up, Doc.
Yeah.
And two, because if there's one film that is put above Citizen Kane, it's The Godfather, which is also, by the critics, it's also 1972. So we feel confident in saying 1972 is a legitimate as far into the timeline as we'll go, right?
Right, and two, this movie, we talked about this beforehand, this movie has spoofs and parodies of like 8,000 classic golden era Hollywood movies. So really, it's legitimate in our whole classic movie thing.
Because of the director Peter Bogdanovich, who was a student, he was a friend of Orson Welles, he was a student of classic Hollywood. And, you know, some people thought at the time in the early 70s that the screwball comedy was dead. And Bogdanovich fooled them all and brought out just amazing performances from this wonderful story starring Ryan O'Neal, Barbara Streisand, and many others. So we need to start by explaining what this film is about. Go ahead. Go ahead, Miss What's Up, Doc. Break this one down in 30 seconds.
I can totally do that.
No, you can't.
I can too. Peter Bogdanovich. He says that at its core, this movie is about a stuffy professor and a daffy dame. That is the entire story. But to get a little bit more detailed, it's inspired by Bringing Up Baby, which also has a professor and a crazy lady. And basically, Ryan O'Neal is in town for a conference for musicologists, and he's trying to get a grant so that he can further his research of rocks and how rocks affect music. And Barbara Streisand sees him and latches onto him immediately and follows him around and causes a lot of chaos. And at the same time, there are 4 plaid suitcases owned by 4 different people. One has jewels, one has Barbara Streisand's clothes, one has FBI documents, and one has Ryan O'Neal's rocks in it. And those bags get switched around through the entire movie. That's what the movie's about. Was that 30 seconds?
That was pretty good. I thought I was really going to be able to stump you right off the bat.
No.
You know a few things about this movie, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I'm really humble about it, but I do.
Yeah, you no pretending that I'm going to be able to know more about this movie than you. Although I do like it a great deal. Okay. The hardest question I could probably ask you is, what's your favorite part of the movie? That would be like a terrible thing to ask you.
That would be a terrible thing. Please don't ask me that question.
Well, it is really hard. Now, one of the things that's funny is Barbara Streisand, you know, she's not popular with a lot of people these days. And a lot of people who like don't know this movie, if they've never seen it, they might look at it and say, "What, Barbara Streisand's the lead?"
Yeah.
And you just have no idea how amazing she is. And Ryan O'Neal, he plays Howard Bannister. He is so funny in this just lost, klutzy, completely reliant on his domineering fiance Eunice, played by the absolutely legendary. And I'm so sad it's the only time we're ever going to really get to talk about Madeline Kahn in movies before 1972. But the performances, the cast, it's just so funny. The first time I saw this movie, my mom introduced it to me when I was a teenager. And I remember, I mean, literally not just laughing until tears were streaming down my face. I was rolling on the floor laughing. Like, I think at one point I rolled over and smashed my head against an end table and didn't even care. It was just unlike, and it was so suited me in the screwball comedy world. So I do have to ask you, what are one of your favorite parts? Like, when you start thinking of signature scenes, which ones stand out? All of them.
Yeah, all of them. One of my favorite scenes might be.
Might be.
Might be. One of my favorite scenes might be the one where what's his face? Ryan O'Neal is just getting back to his room after this banquet at which he's been trying to impress Austin Pendleton's character, who is so fabulous, as Frederick Larrabee. Anyway, he gets back to his room and he doesn't realize that Barbara Streisand is in his bathtub taking a bubble bath. And it's such a fabulous scene. Basically, he goes into his room and he starts undressing, and there's a tie that he can't take off, and I mean, it's just hilarious. And then he discovers, yeah, which I learned something about this whole bow tie thing. This is kind of, sorry, I'm totally going off on a side note here, but in good comedies, the thing that you always have to do is do a payoff for every gag. I've watched the commentary, and Peter Bogdanovich talked about this. And so that bow tie, him not being able to get it off, it comes back into play later in the movie when he's standing in an elevator, and it just comes off super easily. Yeah. And that happens throughout this entire movie. Like, funny things that happen in the first half of the movie are all paid off in the second half of the movie. It's really funny. Anyway, he discovers Barbara Streisand in his bathroom. His fiancée ends up coming in. Barbara Streisand standing out on a ledge. There's a fire that starts. I mean, it's just like chaos in this scene, all because Barbara Streisand was in his bathtub. Also in this scene, there's a fire. A TV starts on fire. Before it starts on fire, the movie that's playing on it is Air Force, which is a Howard Hawks movie. And it's one of like 4 or 5 different tributes to Howard Hawks throughout this movie. But when it starts on fire, the fire actually started to get a little bit out of control as they were filming. And
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, Madeline Kahn's screams in that scene are actually legitimate because she thought they were like going to burn up the set or something.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think I explained that scene really well, but I just really love it.
That is definitely one of those ones where I was just once again cracking up, and yeah, he ends up once you've met his fiancée character, and you just know, Howard, I'm coming in there. It's Madeline Kahn. Nobody can scream or have a shrill voice like her. You just know what's about to happen. I always remember, first of all, the hallway scene. You know, there's a pretty great choreography that happens with these plaid suitcases as they keep getting mixed up. The woman, I forget her name, who owns the jewels, she's one of the main characters who's kind
Mrs.
of
Van Hoskins.
Yeah, and
she's
Roger.
Played,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say she's played by Mabel Albertson, who is Cloris Leachman's mother-in-law.
Oh, interesting.
FYI.
I was reading Roger Ebert wrote about this movie years ago. He said she's kind of like the Margaret Dumont character, going back to our Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
And you bring up Howard Hawks. He is kind of like the godfather of screwball comedy, right?
Yep, he did.
For people who don't remember or aren't familiar, some of his movies would be
Bringing Up Baby, His Girl Friday. Those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah. You and we have talked about a lot of different movies, and for the most part, we can do it somewhat intelligently. But this one is just like, where do you start?
Yeah, I love it so much. I can't even talk about it well.
Let's do some of the specific ways that this movie pays homage to movies of the past. Okay. For example, Casablanca. How is Casablanca referenced?
Well, there is a scene on top of the hotel where there's a bunch of construction going on. And actually, we should mention all the lobby shots in this scene were actually filmed at the Hilton in San Francisco. The scenes that are actually inside hotel rooms and in the hallway, those were on set. But they spent at least the first 4 weeks of filming actually at San Francisco. So there's a scene on a rooftop where construction is going on. And Ryan O'Neal goes up in there, and there's a piano, and he takes the cover off the piano, and Barbara Streisand is there. And so she quotes Casablanca, and she sings As Time Goes By, which is really great. And she's actually singing there. Ryan O'Neal is not playing piano. There's actually a piano off to the side of the stage, but they didn't go back and recut her singing in or do any kind of voiceover. She's actually singing in that scene.
Interesting.
So that's kind of fun. That's good stuff.
I was reading that the famous chase scene.
Yeah.
That was the part when I was first seeing this as a kid. I remember that's when I was like smashing my head off of things. It's set up so well. You talk about a payoff. The plate glass window scene is just brilliant in its conceptual nature, and then the way they execute it. I guess they were making fun of what at the time was a really well-known film, Bullet, with Steve McQueen, 1968. That's one I haven't watched in a while. I actually got that on DVD, but they were making fun of some things that audiences really would have recognized from the late 60s and early 70s, as well as the classics.
Yep. Yeah, there's well, the closing line is the one pretty much anybody that's watched What's Up Doc knows. At the end of the movie, they say, love means never having to say you're sorry, and Ryan O'Neal says that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yes. And that's making fun of his big line in Love Story. There's a scene where Barbara Streisand talks about wanting to be to stop being different, and Ryan O'Neal says, different than what? And she's like, different than all the people who are the same, whatever. That kind of fast talking in that piece of the dialogue is from The Awful Truth. It's kind of an kind of tip off to that. There's several spots in the movie where Barbara Streisand, she kind of takes on like a Jerry Lewis type persona. That's kind of fun. And then, the whole movie is kind of inspired by Bringing Up Baby. So there's several different things. There's a spot where Ryan O'Neal's coat gets ripped. That's straight out of Bringing Up Baby. Yeah, there's some Buster Keaton things in there.
The whole vacant stare that Ryan O'Neal has, I mean, it's just so funny. But a lot of that was modeled after Harold Lloyd, who is one of my favorites from the 20s, just brilliant from the silent comedy and the talkies. But he was actually the highest grossing movie star of the 1920s. Harold Lloyd. I didn't know that. So there's a lot more. One of the other things I was thinking about with payoffs, how about so early on, right when Eunice finds out that this crazy Judy Maxwell character has been hanging around her fiance, she's saying, "Who is this woman?" She says, "Have you no propriety?"
Yeah. And don't you know the meaning of propriety? Yeah.
Right. So later on, when everything goes crazy and the room's on fire and they're basically in like various states of dress, she throws that one back. It's such a great way. Does. Because that scene escalates more than almost any comedy scene you'll ever find. It just keeps going and going and going. Worse. And you imagine when they were writing that, imagine the pressure to pay it off. How do you get out of that scene? And they use that line that goes all the way back to the opening of the movie, and it's the perfect way to bring it around. And by the way, the next morning, then we cut to morning, Ryan O'Neal waking up on his bed in a scorched out room, and the hotel manager is no less than John Hillerman. Very famously would become Higgins on Magnum P.I. years later. He walks in and he says, "I have a message from the hotel staff for you." And he says, "Goodbye."
Goodbye.
That's the whole message.
The whole message?
Yes. Just like you said, that snappy dialogue, it happens between every character. So they did a really great job of writing and directing there.
Yeah, and the fast dialogue, it's kind of... I, again, was listening to Peter Bogdanovich talk about this, and he talks about specific scenes where maybe it was 4 pages of script and tons of dialogue, and they would read it, and it would take maybe 4 or 5 minutes to get through it, and he'd say, "Nope, you're not doing it fast enough, try again." So they'd get it down to 3 minutes, and then they'd get it down to 2 minutes, and he'd say, "Nope, start," and so they'd force them to start speaking over each other. They started clipping it more.
Wow.
Some of the action that they would have done in between lines, they started doing it while they were talking. But he mentions one scene in particular. It's the one where it's the Casablanca scene, in the construction area. And yeah, he said that one started out at almost 5 minutes, and they got it down to a minute and a half, which is just crazy. They really do talk so fast. And there's so many shots where it's one long piece of film. There's no cutaway. So in a lot of movies where you have these crazy fast scenes where a ton of stuff is happening, where they maybe would have done a bunch of like bits of it and stuck it all together, this movie just has long shots. And that was really cool to listen to the director talking about just how they'd have these, and the camera would move all around a room, it'd move under doorways and everything, but it would never cut away. It was just one long shot, which is crazy when you think about it, because this movie has so much movement in it. I mean, there's constantly doors opening and bags switching places, and it's pretty fabulous.
Here's how amazing this movie is. We've talked about it for this long already, and we haven't even mentioned the dinner scene.
Oh yes, I love that scene.
that entire
so awesome.
Just everything from Eunice Madeline Kahn trying to get in to what's happening. We haven't even mentioned Simon, played by Kenneth Mars.
I know.
Right? A lot of these guys, by the way, a lot of these actors went on to be in some Mel Brooks films, and they were kind of in that, the wackiest screwball troupe of the 70s. But I mean, that scene alone, you'll just lose it, and you're only a third of the way through the film at that point. That's before the crazy stuff in the hotel rooms.
Oh yeah, I love that scene so much. In that scene, you have all these people sitting around a table, and slowly, one by one, the conversation moves down to underneath the table. That part in the commentary is where I learned another lesson about writing comedy, that apparently this is the key to writing good comedy. You do 3 jokes in a row, and then you do a topper joke to tie it all together. And so this scene, when one by one they start moving the conversation to under the table until all the different people around the table are leaned down underneath the tablecloth talking. And it's so true. There's 3 jokes, boom, 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 and then it pulls away, and you have the waiter looking at the table saying, what wine did you serve at table whatever, which is kind of the topper joke.
And it's all, as far as, that's like the rule of 3s, right? And then they release the tension, that waiter joke, and then when Eunice breaks in, his famous line where he denies knowing his fiance.
Yeah, I've never seen her before in my life.
By the way, Randy Quaid is one of the people under that table. He's super young, looking at Randy Quaid in 1972. There is so much about this movie that is just amazing. If you have not seen What's Up, Doc, you've got to check it out. I didn't even mention that the guy who plays the thief is the actor Sorrel Book. Yeah. And a lot of people might not even recognize him, but that's Boss Hogg from Dukes of Hazzard.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So a lot of these actors went on and did various comedies. Many of them have appeared. They're still working. Even The Spy, Michael Murphy, he pops up and stuff all the time. Interestingly, Bogdanovich, you would have thought around 1972 when he was making a film like this that he was going to be just on fire forever. And he really, he didn't. He kind of took a step back for some time. If he never reached this level again, I don't think.
He didn't. He before doing this movie, he did The Last Picture Show, and I think that's probably the one he got the most critical acclaim for. What's Up, Doc is probably the one he's most known for, and then he did Paper Moon, which had Ryan O'Neal again and Tatum.
I like Paper Moon.
Yeah, it's a fine movie. It's not What's Up, Doc, but
it's not. It's filmed in black and white, which was again, that was kind of his thing. It's Ryan O'Neal and young
Tatum O'Neal.
Tatum O'Neal. She's just amazing. Oh my goodness, we could talk literally all night about this film. Melissa Tagg may or may not have watched this movie multiple times in a row. Including like uber nerd cred with director commentary.
Well, I really love it. It's just I just don't have words for how much I love this movie. It's so great.
if somebody were to be like, Melissa Tagg, I want to be your best friend forever, and you were like, okay, what do you think of What's Up, Doc? And they were like, it's dumb. Would you even be able to?
The Christian in me would realize that I should probably have grace and love them anyway, but I'd have a really hard time liking them after that. It would really affect our friendship.
I kind of said this about Arsenic and Old Lace. Like, if you don't get that movie, then you probably won't get a lot of me, because I get that movie. It's just I like it. But I think What's Up, Doc? If you just can't love What's Up, Doc, or can't even get it, then you're just probably not going to understand how my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. It's just perfect. It's the perfect comedy. The writing is brilliant. I don't even know if there's anything else in the last 30 years that is, if they could even come close to this, they would have a hit.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's not a wasted scene in the whole movie. You can watch this movie you can watch it like 50 times, and every time you'll see something new in the background of scenes. There's spots where like there's maybe a shot of somebody in the doorway, and over their shoulder somebody else is tripping. Just like random stuff like that is so funny and just thrown in because it's like, I don't know, Peter Bogdanovich was like, okay, this is funny, but how can we make it even funnier? So
thrown in but never throw away. And I mean, from the hotel clerk on down the line to all of the little random things that are happening in that airport and beyond.
Oh yeah.
We gush about movies. It's what we do, but we will never gush as much as this one. I don't think. It's just one of those movies you've got to see. If you don't have a sense of humor, then this movie might be good enough that it'll actually help.
You'll get one. Yeah. It will improve your life, basically. So
I think it has to. If you're having a terrible day or a terrible week or a terrible life, just watch What's Up, Doc.
It really, this movie it's so true. It's my go-to movie for like every single mood. Like if I'm in a bad mood, I can put it in, and within like 5 minutes of the opening song, I'm really happy.
I've got to buy the Blu-ray before you, and then I'm gonna have one up on you. Yeah, I'm going to.
No,
it's gonna happen.
I don't think it's possible to one-up me on this movie. I'm not cocky about a lot of things, but about What's Up, Doc, I win. That's all.
Tag wins.
I just do.
Well,
hey, totally random side note. We have to.
Okay.
I just really want to mention this. There's 28 stuntmen in this movie, and this is the very first movie ever to credit all the stuntmen at the end in the credits.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I did
it's
not
totally
know
off
that.
topic, but.
And we didn't even talk about Liam Dunn, the judge. Oh my goodness.
Know.
How do you...
He's so great. He wasn't even an actor before this. He was like, I can't remember, like a stuntman or a production designer.
What?
He was something else. He wasn't really an actor.
No. I don't know if I can believe that.
Believe it.
He
Buy
had
the
to be
Blu-ray. No, he's so great. And he wasn't even an actor.
Had to be a stand-up comedian or something.
No, he was just something else. And then...
He wasn't a movie actor. He had been doing television for years.
Oh, well, okay. But I mean, he'd never done a movie before. Somebody just randomly recommended
That's
it
right.
for this.
He had never done a movie before.
Yeah.
Melissa.
Funny. What?
You're getting fact drunk. Just
what?
drunk on facts.
No, I'm not. But I could keep going on. Except we might be running out of time right now. I can stop anytime.
It's a lot of fun. Well, it makes sense that this is the most fun movie to talk about because it's the most fun movie to watch, and it is setting us up for, that was number 14. So next week we're going to hit our number 15 movie, and we're going to talk about a film that that What's Up, Doc referenced in Casablanca. So come back for that one. But in the meantime, check out What's Up, Doc. Buy it, own it, love it, and let us know if you have watched it. What's your favorite parts? If you haven't watched us, tell us why, and fix that.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, just don't tell us.
Just don't tell us. Don't tell Melissa for sure. She's not gonna be okay with that. Her Iowa kindness will just evaporate.
Go out the door. Yeah, just
real quick.
Yeah, I'll just admit it.
All right, we'll see you next time.